Hey everybody, welcome into M&M Across the Board. Ashley Miller, Eric McDowell, Chris Honorato.
I fooled you. I fooled you.
Chris was with us last week, and even
he has the hair.
Touch, Sean. What a good
That's
touch.
enough of the tie. I'm done.
Yeah. You
That's
don't
a
like
past
those.
life.
He took all his hair with him, so you're stuck with us two.
Yeah, that's all right.
Freshly coiffed.
I like it's bald is beautiful, right?
Absolutely. Hair's
That's what they say.
overrated.
I love it. Welcome back, Sean. I know it wasn't a vacation, but some good family time, I hope.
Quality.
Good.
A little bit of work, some playground stuff.
All right.
Snowman. A
Snow
little bit
football.
Mexican. Had some snow football going on. That was awesome.
That's awesome. Cool. Well, we're happy that you're back. We're happy that everyone's here with us. We are going to go MLB. MLB broke last night. We're back where the lockout is on for real. We'll talk a little bit about that. College hoops and Coach K's farewell tour. LeBron and his legacy, which you could talk about pretty much any week of the year. And we're going to do something fun this week. Our top 5, let's call it most memorable sports moments. And this could go all different ways because I think you can interpret it however you want. Some of mine I was in person for, some of them I watched on TV. But yeah, memorable, good, bad, indifferent. So this will be a lot of fun, guys. Let's start with MLB. Sean, you want to kick that off?
Yeah, I do. And I'm going to really try hard not to swear.
Okay.
Because quite frankly, those guys are pissing me off.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I blame them both. I'm not on the side of the owners, not on the side of the players. I'm on the side of the fans. I have so many issues with this. Number one, this shouldn't happen. Okay. We're talking about a lot of money. And I know there's particulars. I know you're talking about younger players that haven't made their money. Not everyone is grossly a millionaire, and not everyone's a billionaire owner. Okay. First, the owners. You have a block of owners that I think are more interested, that they don't care if they play. They're not passionate about the sport. It's a business for them. And that's okay. But this is sports. Okay. You want to run your own business and run your corporation, you want to, that's fine. Sports are different. Okay. And you have a block of owners, that idiot in Oakland, Fisher. You got Baldwin. I'm angry today. Today's my venom.
All right.
You have other owners. They don't care. They probably make more money by not playing. And it's a small block of owners that can hold up any agreement. That's my problem with the owners. And then Hal Steinbrenner's now even kind of on there too, because he's shown he's not his dad. Okay. My problem with the players, once they all start going to social media, that's a bad sign. Because now they're negotiating in the press to win over favor of the fans. And I am more on the side of the owner players here a little bit, because I don't think the owners legitimately care about the sport. And I think they're led by a buffoon of a commissioner who referred to the World Series trophy as a hunk of metal, who was laughing during his presser when the talks broke down. My biggest issue with the players, and it's just cosmetics, I don't like that most of the players on the committee negotiating are Scott Boras clients, all of them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
That's a problem, because Scott Boras is slime. He's terrible for this sport, but he holds this sport in such control because he controls all the best players. And I just don't like the optics of it. I don't know the inner workings of it, but I don't like the optics that his guys are the face of the committee. It's not all of them, but I know the 6 that were involved in a meeting the other day, all of them were Boras clients. So figure it out, boys, because let me tell you something. I love the game. Talked about it on my podcast the other day, and I'll be back. My fantasy baseball league is getting ready for year 33. It's been well over half my life. But you know what? There's a lot of other stuff going on. We're getting ready for March Madness, which we're going to talk about. You have other sports coming up. You got the NFL draft coming up soon and the combine, and they never go away. And hockey and basketball are getting near the end of the regular season. Now, when are people going to miss baseball? And my problem is I don't think the owners are going to miss it too. And that's why I've kind of been prepared since October that there will be no season this year.
Well, I have to say, I think I was born, and Sean would probably agree, at the wrong time, because I would have loved to have been around at the turn of the century when every city had ingrained owners that were ingrained in the community, that, like the Brooklyn Dodgers before Brooklyn screwed their owner and forced them to move. But the players would go out to a local pub after. You were part of the team. The fans were appreciated. All of that is what we think baseball should still be. I get it. It's not. Manfred, as we know, is a puppet. He is paid by the owners, and he's basically an owner's arm. So he's always going to put them first. John, I agree about the laughing at this presser is a disgrace. There are median people like us that are furious, and he thinks it's funny, and he's practicing his golf swing. Okay. I love to go to Florida for golf swing. Okay. But he's there for business. Keep your damn butt in the room. Work with Clark. Clark has been professional. They had a presser at a nearby hotel, and they did it 90 minutes after the MLB. That's smart. As a press conference person, you don't do it competing. You give the media the time to go and hear their side. I'm siding a tad on the players because I like the fact that they're thinking about the minimum salaries, arbitration issues, but it's hard to hear Max Scherzer talk about that and how tough it is with the contract he got. So that's a problem there. I'd listen more to Andrew Miller, who's a free agent who's been around, but baseball is part of the way we've been brought up, and it's something that we look forward to. My fantasy league, John, is entering hopefully year 36. So it's something, and we have 7 of the original owners still involved. So I'm looking around at the baseballs here, and I'm just reading up on things and playing a historic baseball game. But I am very concerned now that this thing could really drag on, Ashley, and both sides. I really don't think they care what the fans think. I really don't.
They don't.
Yeah, and so officially we've canceled 2 series to start the season. So opening day will not start on time, but obviously this could go on far beyond that. But guys, this feels like the only sport where this is continually an issue. You don't see lockouts every 20 years in other sports. We're not talking about teams not playing games. And this is coming off of a pandemic. Like when we missed sports for so long in all capacities, and now we're saying, okay, you know what? It's good. We don't care if we play or not. And you're right. The owners, listen, a lot of them are billionaires. The star players are millionaires. At the end of the day, everyone's going to lose money, but it's the guys who are at the bottom of the barrel who aren't going to get paid their $500,000 or what they hope will be $700,000. And I get it, but we can't think of that as like the equivalent, like, well, oh, it's $700,000. Like to us, that's life-changing money. But to them, you know, it's what they're in a sport where their ownership are billionaires. For us, like in our day jobs, our owners aren't billionaires. So the equivalent, you can't equate like, oh, well, my $50,000 a year is equivalent to your $700,000 a year. It's not. It doesn't work that way. But still, everyone is being selfish here. Nobody wants to give in, and I get it. Like a guy like Max Scherzer is going to give up $200,000 every time he misses a game or a start. Garrett Cole's going to give up $180,000 every time he misses a game or a start. Guess what? Those are 2 guys that don't need that money. It's the guys on the other side of it, the rookies and the guys who are in the beginning stages of their career who are going to miss that money, not those guys.
There's other tangible victims here, the vendors, the ticket takers, the employees at each stadium that rely on that. You know, you assume they rely on the income from that.
Right.
The hard part about it, again, I get it. It's the bottom line. It's cash. It's a business, but it doesn't make sense. And you brought up the pandemic. What really, really scared me going into this, remember the NHL shut down in 95. I'm sorry, 2005, sorry. They knew they had to change their sport. Baseball wasn't in the health condition the NHL was back then, right? So it just bothers me that they just don't seem to get it, and they don't seem to care. And I go back to the COVID year where the 2 sides, first of all, when you have 2 groups that dislike and distrust each other as much as this, that's a problem.
Yeah. They
couldn't agree on a year in COVID when America was crying for some sort of diversion. 48 games, 60 games, pay this, pay. They couldn't even figure that out and almost didn't have a season. So what makes you think they can figure out a collective bargaining agreement that's going to last 5 or 10 years? It's absolutely scary. I'm not a big Tony Clark guy either. I don't like any of them right now. I'm pissed at them all because, one, the owners locked them out and then sat them down for 43 days with no proposals. Okay, so how serious were you? They got serious over the weekend. They didn't have to put in the deadline. To me, it was more of a threat. And now that's kind of a warning shot that, okay, we're taking away 2 series and we're not going to make them up. All right, and that's what I dislike about the way the owners are handling this, because typically in labor things, the owners are going to come out okay because they own the business. But without the players, you don't have a game. And you could say, well, we'll get rid of them all, and bring up minor leaguers. It's still not the same. You want the best of the best. And also, Rob Manfred, he's the guy that contracted 42 minor league teams. So the man has almost no credibility when he starts talking about baseball and the health of the sport.
The owners think it's old days when baseball players, pardon the word, but they were considered slaves. They before Kurt Flood. Okay, I don't want to be traded there. I don't care. Then you retire because I own you. That's the way the owners were for many years. These owners, unlike us who would like to see what baseball was like back then, these owners are not those owners. Okay, they think they are, but they're not. And it's really unfortunate, and it's very frustrating because those of us that love the sport, Sean said, we'll be back. But the young kids, I don't think they'll come back, and I don't think they're thinking about them. And I've said it before, whether it's the late start times or whatever, it's just a slower sport. They're not even talking about things like the pitch clock and the DH and stuff. They say, yeah, okay, we'll do that. But the ads, they don't want to even talk right now. You need a mediator. They don't want one.
Nope.
Well, then you guys can sit and rot, okay, because you're not getting it done yourselves. A mediator comes in and is strong, professional, and trained to take a union and a company together and get them an agreement. There has to be a mediator thrown in there that has no history with the sport or either side. Will look at the facts and say, you got to give, and you got to stop taking.
Yeah, and my guess is at some point there will be a mediator introduced, whether or not, the players can say they don't want it as long as they want, but at some point it's going to have to happen because I think that's the only way it gets done. But I thought this was interesting on ESPN. Jeff Passan said he was down there, and of all of the players he talked to, and he said, I made an effort to talk to the Max Scherzers and Garrett Coles of the world, and I made an effort to talk to the rookies of the world. And he said every single one of them said that they're willing to miss the season. That's not good. And whether or not that's a smoke show, whether or not that's rookies and young players just falling in line with the guys above them because they don't want to be seen as kind of, not falling in line, we'll find out. But if you're willing, it's not even like I'm willing to miss baseball. I'm willing to miss a couple games. I'm willing to miss the season. That doesn't sound a lot like anything's getting resolved anytime soon.
All right, Sean, I'm going to ask you. Let's say you're a 32-year-old pitcher, okay? You got a lot of innings on that arm. Are you looking forward to missing a season? Because guess what? You're not going to have many of them left.
Well, no, you're right. But here's the problem, okay? This has become such a high-stakes industry revenue-wise that a lot of these guys, when you can afford to do it, then you can afford to draw a line in the sand and not bend. The owners aren't going to be harmed by it. They have money. Right? Player salaries are so high that they can afford to do that, which tells you that where's the game? Is there still love for the game? Or is it a love for the finances that the games bring you? And if you can go without it, you're right, Ashley. That's a scary, scary thought because the owners said on Monday they were prepared to cancel the first month of the season. What do they care? Right? You got a bunch of games played in the Northeast and whatever, and it's 32 degrees outside. Nobody's in the stadium anyway because it's too damn cold. So what do they care?
Yeah.
That's the problem.
And I think you're playing. I read some really interesting stuff this morning. Like if 15 days of this season gets canceled, now you are delaying for an extra year free agency for guys like Shohei Ohtani, Pete Alonso, Jonathan India. Those are stars of the game who you are now affecting their careers. So tell me Shohei Ohtani and Pete Alonso don't want things resolved so that they can play baseball and have control over their future.
Yep.
Nobody wants ownership to have control over your future for an extra year. Say you're in a situation you don't like, but you want that bargaining, you want the bargaining ability. You don't have that until you hit free agency.
Yeah. The other unfortunate part of all this is you look at the young players in this game, Tatis and Guerrero and Soto and what Ohtani brought last year. This really could be the beginning of a golden age for baseball with all these young players that you could market around and build your sport and get back some of your fans that you've crapped on all these years. And they're going to screw it up because that's all they know. They don't know how to properly market the game. The best baseball ever did marketing the game, they were pushing all the steroid guys in the 90s before they got serious about testing. They don't know what they're doing.
And actually, a tie into your salary situation and apples and oranges is entertainers, okay?
Yeah.
My wife works in the music industry, And she reminds me that these athletes are like entertainers. They are. Technically, it's an entertainment business to them and the owners, I would say. It's not a sport like we look at it that way. So the salaries they're looking at it would be just like if a singer, if Dua Lipa said, I want to make more than this, and I'm going to work with, Live Nation or Concert Tour that she's on right now, or Journey, for example, they're going to say, this is what I want, and this is what I have to have. So it's very similar to that. And nobody ever makes a statement about how Dua Lipa or Journey or anybody gets overpaid because they don't have these issues. But if we want to think of them as baseball, I think of them as athletes, and I think their time is very limited to be able to perform this. It's not like they can go on a tour like Journey when they're all in their 60s to play baseball anymore.
Yeah. Right. And that's why I think I'm good with the minimum salary requests. I'm good with the pre-arb requests too, because those are, we've talked about this before. Those are the young guys of the game who deserve to get paid quicker than they do, because nobody wants to be getting paid, wait until they're 30 to be getting paid what they deserve to be paid. And I just think it's hard when you think, hey, my boss is making $2 billion a year or whatever it is. I don't know, who makes what at the top. My boss is making $2 billion a year. I'm the best player on his team. How come I'm not making more of that money? I get it. You know what I mean? I get it. You are part of the reason. Aaron Judge and Garrett Cole are part of the reasons why the Yankees are making as much money as they do. It's similar to me a little bit, and not quite the same, but similar to me in the name, image, and likeness of college athletes. Like, they want a piece of the pie, and I get it's more directly related to like their jersey sales and their name and autograph. But at the same time, players want to be compensated equitably for what they're contributing for an owner that's making exponentially more than they are.
You look at the NBA, they treat their players like partners. I mean, they don't have these issues. Right? It's such a big revenue thing. Now they only have 12 to 15 players to put on payroll. So it's a little different there, but there's so much money to be chopped up, but they handle it the right way. They treat their players as equals.
And it started with David Stern, and now now Adam Silver was mentored by Stern.
Adam Silver's the best commissioner in sports. They should all have a commissioner like him. He came in and kicked Donald Sterling out, and that gave him a lot of street credibility. And when he took over, and then everyone should have a commissioner like Adam Silver. Yeah,
and listen, in a way, the players run the league in the NBA. They dictate what goes on and who gets hired where and who goes where. Like, it's a very different league than the MLB for a variety of reasons. But you're right. It's the best run league in the world because of guys like Adam Silver, who at the top are doing all the right things, hiring all the right people. Manfred has not done himself any favors.
Hold that thought for the LeBron segment.
Yeah, good. I will.
All right. What's that?
We're going to go to some hoops.
Before we do that, let's hear from our friends at Mohawk Honda.
Yeah, let's do it.
From them.
I missed the reads last week. It's a new year with new goals. Start your new year right behind the wheel of a new or pre-owned vehicle that fits your budget and your New Year's resolutions. Stop into Mohawk Honda and check out our broad selection of pre-owned inventory. We're here to find the right make, model, price point to fit your budget. Our goal is to help you meet your goals. Let Luis the VIP Man Morales, Jake Hot Sauce Doyle, Cars with Kern Svoboda, or Mark from Clifton Park Ellis connect you up with the perfect deal. Right now is the perfect time to get top dollar for your trade-in with the Kelly Blue Book Instant Cash Offer. Same day check in your hand the day you trade in your vehicle. Just ask for Brian, buy with B. Mac McKenna, Mike Benice, Nicole Oser, or Cam, let's do a deal, McKenna. Again, all of our sales and leasing consultants will make your New Year's automotive goals their top priority. Start the new year right with just the right deal at Mohawk Honda and Glenville, where they go out of their way to please
you. Your read was so much better than mine, I have to say.
I doubt it.
It was harder than I thought it was going to be.
I think I've gone 2 weeks now without flubbing it. That's a record.
That's good.
Yeah.
There's a lot of names in that read, and I was like, oh,
That's
God.
Right. I think when we start with the basketball, we have to start with one of my special cereals, Special K. And I had that Saturday in honor of Coach K. First, and I know you're a Syracuse person.
I say in honor of them kicking my team's you know what?
Yeah, I have to touch on that. Sorry, because it's like a comment. It doesn't happen too often. Okay.
It's all good.
An NCAA men's basketball game between the two winningest coaches in the sports history, Mike Krzyzewski, Jim Boeheim, nearly 2,200 wins, nearly 100 seasons. Seriously, okay? We know Coach K is
Mhm.
retiring, entering 47th year. He had 1170, most all time for the sport, 42 at Duke. People in Chapel Hill we know may not agree, but he is an immortal. He is a
Correct.
legend, and people higher up should learn about patience. And I want people to think about what we're saying here. In his first 3 seasons at Duke, they were 38 and 47. Okay, I think you two would agree. If you go 38 and 47 in today's game, you ain't seeing year 4. Okay, and just a personal note on him. I did make a visit to Cameron Indoor Stadium, but we were there for men's lacrosse. Thank you very much. We did not play in basketball. Thank goodness. And a few summers ago at a convention, he came to receive what we give the Dick Enberg Award. And we visited about his golf outings. He plays golf every year with PJ in Ireland with a couple people. And he was intrigued about Spreewell. And he said, wow, you must have had fun with that. It was pretty cool. He hung out at the lounge, chatted with sports communications professionals. Nobody did the phones or autographs or anything. I don't know where he ranks overall with Red Auerbach, Tara and Pat, Scotty Bowman, Connie Mack. He's right up there. But right now it's all about, on my end, rooting for Coach K to get into that tournament. He's got the 5 titles. We want to see him tie Wooden in 13 Final Fours, and it would be a storybook finish for a real quality person to hoist that trophy one more time.
Listen, I'll tell you what, I don't want to see it. I don't want to see him get to
I
his
know
13th
you too.
Final
I'm the
Four
Tar Heel
or
guy.
his-
Nope.
or his 6th title. I have no interest. I respect the heck out of that guy. And you know, as much as Duke bothers me, Coach K doesn't really bother me as much as he probably bothers Sean, which is kind of interesting.
Not totally true, but go ahead.
Okay, good. Well, like I said, I'm a Syracuse fan. There's no bigger Duke hater on the planet than me, for good reason. But listen, in the last 50 years, there's nobody better to do it. He's got 9 championship game appearances, 5 titles at Duke. He's coached some of the best players in the world. He's an Olympic coach. He's done it all, and he's done it all. It feels like he's done it all the right way. The dude has a little bit of a temper, but he's done it all the right way. And Wright Thompson came out with an article today, I think, not an article so much as like a long form essay, basically from start to finish of, you know, Krzyzewski's life, but also career. Infinitely interesting. I did not read it all the way through because it would probably take me like a couple hours. But I read good portions of it, and he's just a really interesting guy. You know, went to Army. There's not much to hate about him other than the fact that he coaches the most hated team in America for me.
My most common, 2 most common hashtags on Twitter, 1 is Raider Nation and number 2 is Duke Sucks.
Duke sucks.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm no stranger to that.
Yeah.
Here's my thing with Krzyzewski. Back in 1990, 91, I was a 15-hour-a-week part-timer at the Times Union in the sports department writing a college notes segment. And Greg Kubek from our area in Clifton Park was about to become one of the first class of players to appear in 4 Final Fours if they got there that year, and they did. And I tried for 2 weeks. I wasn't afraid. I'm calling Coach K. He called me back. Okay. And I was in the office and people were looking at me and I'm like, Coach Krzyzewski, how are you? And they're just like, is he talking to the real coach?
Yeah, like
Coach Krzyzewski.
Nobody else has that name.
So I talked to him for 20 minutes as a journalist and probably another 20 minutes as a fan, even though I absolutely detest Duke. Go Tar Heels. So, yeah, Mike Krzyzewski called me back when I was 2 years out of college and a part-timer and helped me out with the story and was a fantastic and couldn't have been more courteous.
That's awesome.
That was awesome. And
I think you both agree. The 3 toughest tickets in sports, I would say, getting a Maple Leafs ticket, good luck with that, a home game, a Packers ticket, and obviously a Duke ticket. Duke. Yeah. And I don't care if you're even a senior at Duke, it's hard to get in there. But I think it's just remarkable what he's done, and it's nice to hear that story, Sean. And it really is that people. What we like to bring to this podcast, folks, is from the 3 of us about behind the stats. What these people are like, and I think that's a great piece, as we touched on, about the person himself, that he takes the time to do that.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It really is. And Ashley, this season, you talk about predictions. I will predict who wins the title. How about at halftime of the title game?
Yeah, no doubt. It's wild. Yeah, Sean, I can't like that to me though. Like as much as did you hate him any less after that experience? Like
I
thinking
did. It softened me, and
dude
trust
just
me.
called me back and talked to me for 40 minutes and I'm nobody in Albany, New York. You know what I mean? Like
Exactly.
it's wild.
Exactly. Yeah.
Not that
So
you're
that makes it
nobody,
tough.
but you know what I mean.
You guys know me well enough to know that I usually, once I get a grudge, I don't let go.
Right.
But I had to a little bit there. But here's the thing with him. I will say there was a point of his career where I thought there was a lot of hypocrisy, because he used to really criticize John Calipari at Kentucky for the one and done and the way he was running his program.
Oh, yeah.
And now Duke has become that. But I have to give him credit for recognizing, hey, the game has changed.
You got to do what you got to do.
If you don't evolve, you're going to end up like Wake Forest.
But that's why he's won in the, beyond 2000.
He was smart enough to change his approach. And to
even before the portal.
What's that?
Sean, even before the portal. Now they throw that into it.
Yeah. So I hate Duke. And you know what? Even when they lose to Belmont in the first round, when the confetti settles in the room I'm in, and I'm enjoying that and I'm reveling in it, and he's crying at the podium, thanking his kids that are leaving. I enjoy that, but I'm like, you know what, though? That you got to give him credit for having that emotion and that tie for his players. Yes, it's awesome. I love this, but I kind of feel bad for him a little bit because he legit cared about his players.
Yeah. And maybe this year I will feel differently if they get upset earlier than they should, because I'll know, like, man, this is it for him. But that doesn't mean I want to see him win a title.
No, same here. By the way, full disclosure, I'm married to a Duke fan. Enough said.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
He's also not popular in Stores, Connecticut, by the way, and we know why. Is it possible that because coaches like that are so successful and the program so successful that they hate him because the team that you root for sucks and the Sox have changed like coaches? I mean, is that part of why people hate people like this that are so great?
Jealousy and respect.
Yeah.
It's respect. It's a
people hate,
it's a sports.
People hate Gino Auriemma. People hate winners. That's how it goes. Right, and exactly. That's why I hate Duke, is because they win. You want to be those people, and you're sick of seeing those people win. So while I say I hate him, I don't hate him. I hate his team because they beat us all the time and they win more than we do. But that's what it is. It's jealousy. It's not really like a real hatred. It's jealousy.
But that's what makes sports great. Christian Laettner hits that shot against Kentucky.
Yep.
I wanted to throw my TV out the window, but that's one of the best things ever happened to the college game, because you need an adversary, right? You need a foil. For me, it's been Duke for a long time. You know, with Laettner and Bobby Hurley and all those guys that you just love to hate. But yeah, Krzyzewski, you got to give him credit. Yeah, he's a candidate for the Mount Rushmore of coaching for sure.
No doubt.
That said, after he leaves, Duke basketball, to quote Mike Tyson, they can fade into oblivion for a few years for all I care, and I'd be good with that.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see what Shire can do with that team. He's been around long enough that my guess is like those recruits know what they're getting into with Coach K leaving and coming to play under Shire. My guess is a guy like Paolo Banchero isn't going to be there to see it anyway because he's going to go to the NBA. But I'll be interested to see how a guy like Shire recruits, if it's good or if, they do fall off for a while until he proves, hey, we can still hack it in the ACC, which, by the way, sucks. We talked, for the last 5 years, it's been maybe 10 years since the Big East changed, all those teams moved out of the Big East to the ACC. It's been the best conference in basketball year after year. And we've had 5, 6, 7 ACC teams getting in. This year, listen, people are talking about one, which is Duke. If they don't let Notre Dame into the NCAA tournament, that would be a travesty, because Notre Dame deserves to be in. They're not ranked, and yet they deserve to be in. They've been like 11-2 in their last 13 games. They're one of the top teams in the ACC, and I get it, the ACC's down, but you can't tell me that just because 3 teams are ranked in the Big East, that the Big East top to bottom is a better conference. You've got Georgetown, who hasn't had a win in the Big East. So I still think the ACC day to day is a grind, and teams probably deserve more, but I'm not saying let in more than 2 teams. They're terrible this year.
You see Notre Dame in the latest ESPN bracketology, because I have it right there. Notre Dame is listed as an 8 seed.
Okay.
But I'm dying to ask you, if Joseph Girard III's last name was Boeheim, would he average 30 points?
No.
Why don't they let him
The Boeheims don't even average 30 points.
What's your thoughts on Syracuse? How long?
They've made me miserable this year, but honestly, I said to Chris the other day, like, it's one of the few years where I feel like we don't have a chance. We played ourselves out of it so early on. We're not fun to watch, that like I just haven't cared as much as I normally do. So it's been less stressful. I can probably enjoy the NCAA tournament more than I normally do, because when Syracuse plays, it is, as you will find out from my memorable moments, some of the most emotional high-low days of my life. So you know what, for me to just be able to like get in a bracket pool and root for teams based on my money, great. I'm happy to do that.
Well, do you remember a couple weeks ago when we had Dan Ruzanowski talking hockey,
Yeah.
and I asked about the Montreal Canadiens? Okay, I'm going to equate Georgetown with them. Okay, the Hoyas have fallen faster than the old Roadrunner cartoons when Wile E. Coyote would just go poof. G-Town hasn't even won a game in the league. This is a team that shocked everybody last year. We know we're going to have some of those shockers and teams right now at small schools somewhere where their SID, their sports info director, isn't even ready for what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And it's going to be so exciting for them, like Loyola, okay? But what has happened at Georgetown is absolutely stunning. And you talked about how bad ACC is, but here is a program in 1 year. We don't know what the details are, but I just cannot believe that a program of what they weren't undefeated last year, but they still got to run. But you've got to get to the dance to dance, okay? And I still think Syracuse might get a look, because then when they have this tough year, they are Syracuse. There are programs that they do take, and that has a lot to do with a coach like a Krzyzewski or a Boeheim. But Georgetown, absolutely mind-boggling.
Yeah, but you know what? I don't hate, as much as I would prefer the ACC be great and my team be great, I don't hate what's happened with college basketball, because, listen, for once, the SEC and the Big 10 or Big 12 are running the show. Big 10. There are teams that haven't been good in a long time. Like, we're talking about Baylor as the reigning national champ. I think it's good. I think it's good for college hoops.
Yeah.
Auburn, one of the best teams in the country this year. Texas Tech. Texas is kind of sort of back. A team like Tennessee, Arkansas, Alabama. This is good for college hoops because it's different teams. Murray State is ranked. Gonzaga and St. Mary's are both ranked. And while I'm still not convinced that Gonzaga will ever win the big game, there's more parity in college hoops this year than there's ever been, in my opinion. And I love it. The top 6 AP teams lost on Saturday.
Yeah.
On the same day.
Never
it's
happened.
the first time it's ever happened. Unbelievable. I freaking love it. It's just mayhem. But good luck to anyone trying to fill out a bracket. It's hard already. It's going to be impossible this year.
Yeah, I'm usually in tatters by the end of the first weekend anyway.
Yeah.
So more of the same.
I did okay in my bracket last year. We did a pretty cool bracket, which actually I might send to you guys. Our guy Robert Lee does a pretty cool bracket with like weighted stuff. It's a lot of fun. And I think I came in like maybe 5th or 6th out of like almost 100 people.
I've run a bracket for years online, and I always pick one for my wife. I always make sure if I can, her finals are Duke and Gonzaga. Those are her teams.
Yeah.
I think the last time we had it, we didn't do it last year, the year before, obviously there was no tournament. The last time we had it, my son Noah won it. And he was 3. I took his winnings and put it in a fund.
Yeah.
I got to touch on Baylor because it's not that long ago that the Baylor men's basketball team defined the word scandal.
Mm-hmm.
That program was in the ashes.
Yep.
And I cannot believe how quickly that has been turned around there in Waco. It's absolutely incredible. Of course, the men and women programs, but that was a program that anybody should put a poster up. If a coach goes into a program that's been a mess, you talk about a turnaround. Credit to the coaches, the ADs, and the staff at Baylor for bringing that program to where it is now, the pinnacle from where it was back then with Dave. I'm not going to tell his name, okay? It was in the dumpster fire and still burned.
Yeah.
All right. John Stone Supply?
Yeah.
Will we get to LeBron James?
Yeah.
Hey, it's never too early to start thinking about summer and air conditioning. I like the way this read is going.
Yeah.
Going out for preseason pricing on John Goodman Central ACs, or if you're looking to go with Fujitsu mini splits, they've got that too. the best quality products at unbeatable prices. And if you're a homeowner that's mulling your options and want to get hooked up with a local contractor that can figure out your family's needs, call John Stone and they've got you covered. And as always, lowest prices on Milwaukee tools guaranteed.
Air conditioning.
That's a
On the
good
way.
sound.
Yeah.
LeBron. I think I like Cleveland LeBron a hell of a lot more than I like LA and Miami LeBron.
Sure.
Right? I kind of liked him in the town that he was building something. What I don't like lately is he wanted to be part of the whole process. His agent helped bring Anthony Davis. They share an agent there. Helped get Russell Westbrook there. It's gone to hell, like someone predicted in the preseason. And
I think we all were on that train.
And he sat there at the All-Star game and blamed Rob Pelinka, the GM, with no accountability. Wanted them to answer for it, and then started saying, well, in a couple of years, I'm going to the team that drafts my son. I don't know if it sounds good enough to play in the league or not, but he seems to be getting out a little bit ahead of himself on some of that stuff. And you know what? He's LeBron James. He's one of the best players of all time, but he's also getting a little soft in his old age. He was complaining about fans yelling at him the other night. I saw a quote that he suggested they put up sound barriers so they couldn't interact. Dude, it's basketball. All right. And guess what? When you're not getting back on defense or you're not kicking out to challenge a shooter and you're just standing around and you're making all the money and you're supposedly the GOAT to anybody 25 years and younger, they're going to boo you. You get what you deserve.
Yeah, I think, listen, you don't see a lack of one thing that I'll give. You don't see a lack of effort from LeBron very often. If he's on the floor, he's usually getting after it. I think his biggest problem is like his own fans are booing the team because they're losing. Guess what? That's how it goes. That you're in LA, you're in New York, you're anywhere. You're team, with the exception of Minnesota or it's someone who's not used to winning. They're gonna boo you. LeBron has never been, I don't think, perceived as not being soft. I think that's one of the biggest knocks on him is that he's soft and he cares more about the relationships with players than he does about certain things. I don't think he cares more about relationships with players than winning. I think that's probably unfair to say. But he's not Michael Jordan. He doesn't have that mentality. But there is no one on this planet that is currently in the NBA that has the mentality of Jordan. Everyone is sort of like LeBron in that way. Like, they care more about the friendships and hanging out in the off season and training. And it's different. And that's the biggest thing is like, LeBron's not the only one. He is just like everyone else in that regard. It's not the same as Jordan because times are different. So I don't fault him for being a little softer than Jordan. Listen, the complaining about the calls and stuff like that would drive me crazy. But you could ask any NBA player. There have been problems with NBA fans for a long time saying things that are totally inappropriate and that they shouldn't say. I don't have a problem with him voicing things like that, but if you're complaining about getting booed for losing, man, you better get a new job.
He thought what they pulled off in Miami, the big three, which did work, would work in LA, and it didn't. No. And Sean, to touch on your, hockey plexiglass tip of around the fans, I don't think Spike Lee would enjoy that at a Knicks game. He'd climb over the glass and go after Reggie Miller. But actually, that exactly right about the different times. It was good to see that everybody checked their egos at the door with the big 76 being honored at the All-Star game. And to see the photo of LeBron and Jordan smiling and patting him, that was great to see. That love fest does not exist, but everybody checked it at the door. The history coming back, I think it was George Michael, Bob Pettit in his 80s saying what a big deal it was. It was tremendous. But different times. When Jordan played, there was no social media.
Right.
He was not looked at like LeBron. And the fact is, I'm not a fan of hearing an athlete say how they feel about politics or any of that. But people in this country, many of them are drawn by LeBron, and they want to hear him have to say things, not just about basketball, but about whether Ukraine or George Floyd or whatever. LeBron is their voice, and I get that. Jordan, totally different personality. When we went there, you didn't see him with the other players. He had his own room to prepare for the game. You couldn't talk to him before. The only time you saw him was on the court. And then afterwards, if you wanted questions, you went to one of the staff to get them. He was almost like private. But the fact is, it worked for him. So I think it's a very different era, and it's very tough to judge them. We'll never be able to compare them on the court.
Yeah.
They're two of the best ever in any sport, and I get it. But LeBron is looked at by these young people as somebody they want to hear from, and I think he has that on his shoulders, and he tries to deal with that. And I think he enjoys it.
Yeah, look, I've said on this show before, I think LeBron's greatest impact on society is going to come when he's done.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
The social activism.
And he's already had a huge impact. Listen,
he has had an impact,
you know what
and
I mean?
I think it's only going to grow, and good for him, because I largely agree with what he is saying.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm happy for him that I will give him credit for using his pulpit to take a stand on very controversial things, and more power to him, because that's important that he do that.
Yep.
When I talk about softness on the basketball court, I am talking about being sensitive to being booed.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like you said, Ashley, I mean, if you're playing in Memphis, okay, but you're a Laker, and you went to LA for a reason, to be a Laker.
Mm-hmm.
And with that comes expectations, and they have not met them. And it's that simple. But he's got to own some of that, because he helped put that team together. You
No
can
doubt.
blame the coach, you can blame the GM all you want, but
Yep.
they're going to him for all the big moves because he's the one in charge. And
Mhm.
that's part of the NBA. And it's a failure this year.
Yep.
Got to own it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When your name is LeBron James and you've been known to get coaches fired and get coaches hired, you can't claim like, oh, I didn't have anything to do with that. We suck because of that guy. Well, no, you had a lot to do with all of it. You had a lot to do with Frank Vogel. You had a lot to do with everyone who's Ty Lue, everyone who's come in and out of your circle has been because LeBron wanted or didn't want said coach or even players there. So he can't claim like, I didn't have anything to do with that. He's got to take some credit or some blame for some of it, I think. But he'll never come out and say like, well, yeah, they hired that guy because I wanted him, or they signed that guy to a contract because I wanted him. He's not going to say that because I don't think it's the best look for the NBA, even though everybody knows that's the way it goes. It's LeBron James.
Coaches are fired in that league because players get to the owners more than any other sports league, without a doubt. I know the roster is the smallest roster of any of the big four, but the fact is they get the coaches they want. He ran some guys out of Cleveland. Fairy tale, I'd love to see him finish as a Cav. I really would. But, hey, they don't need him right now because they're winning and nobody knows about it.
Yep. Yeah, they are.
No doubt.
All right.
Top five.
Top five.
We're going to go into our top five. What do we dub it? Most memorable sports moments?
Sure.
Okay. And I'm interested to see where this goes because, like I said, all of mine I was not there for in person because I wasn't so lucky. And some of mine are not on the winning end.
Oh, I didn't list my bad stuff.
Well, yeah, but to me, like some of mine are like the ones that stick with me are some of the losses that have like literally crushed my soul. So,
well, we're going to go age-wise here and let the young lady fire away at five.
Number five, this is a positive one for me. The best baseball game I've ever been to in person, ALCS Game 4, 2017 at Yankee Stadium. So this was to set the scene. The Yankees are down, coming back from Houston, down 0-2. They win Game 3 at the stadium. And Chris and his brother and we took his niece down there. We just kind of decided on a whim, let's try and get tickets. Got tickets. They're down 4-0, have done absolutely nothing until Judge hits a solo home run in the 7th. Judge then hits a 2 RBI double in the 8th. Sanchez hits another 2 RBI double, something like that. They win 6-4. And that place, I mean, like, when I tell you the stadium was moving, like it was rocking because it was freaking wild. And since then the Astros rivalry has taken on a whole nother meaning, but to be down 0-2 to the Astros and that game got them back to tied at 2, that was the series where every home team won a game. So they end up losing the series in Houston. But it was unbelievable. It was some of the most fun I've ever had. And I have a soft spot for baseball. I think we're probably all bigger baseball fans than maybe like your average fan. So baseball to me is always, the bread and butter where it's at.
Yeah. I'm putting this together. A couple things I threw out. The Raiders, 3 Super Bowls, Nebraska, 3 in 4 years in the 90s, the Bruins, 2011 Cup run, the A's in the 70s, 3 in a row. All that's out. Those were experiences, not moments. Couple of honorable mentions I wanted to mention: being the beat writer for the Union College National Championship Hockey Team in 2014.
Very cool.
September of 2000, I was part of the Nebraska Big Red Invasion in Notre Dame when it was probably 40% Husker fans. And then obviously Balboa versus Creed 1 and 2 stand out, but they didn't make my top 5. Number 5 for me, summer of 1977, I struck out a kid, and I remember his name, Mike Gianelli, on 3 pitches. 3 fastballs up and in. I think there was so much energy. He swung at all 3 balls to clinch the 1977 Little League title for Mervin's Department Store in the San
Hey, we're talking about ones you were a part of. I love this.
Wow.
It's the highlight of my athletic career. I was 11.
I love it.
Well, before I start with 5, I'm just going to mention 2 from a working capacity. Okay. The 5 are as a fan, but these are 2 highlights of my working career. The college men's ice hockey national title in Philadelphia that year that Sean covered in 2014. I look at that ring all the time. And the 1998 NBA All-Star game in New York. Those were phenomenal working events. But number 5 to me, we go to Foxborough, December 12th, 1982. The snowplow game, we've touched on it here before, but John Smith got a little help from a furloughed prisoner's snowplow to clear a patch. We couldn't believe what we were watching. This sudden little patch of green, and there's your 3-0 win over Miami. It was fun to watch referee Bob Frederick get an earful from Don Shula. He looked like that anger character in that recent movie. And Pat's coach Ron Meyer getting Mark Henderson onto the field with his plow was pretty much the only thing that Meyer did in his coaching tenure. So, Ashley, number 4.
Number 4 for me, June 30th, 2015. Chris and I went up over the border into Montreal, and we were one of 51,000 fans, 2 of 51,000 fans in Montreal to witness a U.S. women's national team 2-0 victory over Germany in the World Cup semifinals on the way to the USA's World Cup championship. So that is something, I have pictures from that game. It was freaking awesome. I mean, as you could imagine, very heavily USA, a lot of red, white, and blue. It was just so cool to be able to see that in person. Carly Lloyd kicked a PK. I think Kelly O'Hara added a goal late, and then we saved a PK late in that game. So 2-0. But just to say you saw, the women's national team on the way to a World Cup was really incredible. And that was, again, like a total last minute thing. We knew they were coming to Montreal, and Chris and I have weekdays off occasionally. And we just said, like, you want to try and get tickets? Okay. We did, and made the drive up. It took forever to get there. It took like 4.5, 5, some ridiculous number of hours because of construction and traffic, but it was totally worth it. It was awesome.
Wow.
All right. Number 4, 1980, February. I went to a Section 2 high school basketball playoff game between 1-19 Bethlehem and 0-20 Bishop Gibbons for one reason. One, it was my school. Bethlehem lost. But the reason I went was I wanted to avoid any news on the game going on in Lake Placid between the USA and Russia. Because at the time, they was played at night. It was like a 4 o'clock start, 4:30, 5 o'clock. And I said, I'm going to go to this basketball game. So I don't know who wins.
Really bad basketball game.
Really bad. And they announced the final score.
No.
I'm
of
just
course
like,
they did.
I'm like, hey,
are you surprised, though?
We won, but what the hell are you doing? So ran home, got to the game. It was still euphoric. Miracle on Ice. I'll never forget it. But for that PA announcer,
Did you record the game? How do you do it back in 1980?
I don't think, Ashley, VCRs were around then.
Highlights? You watch highlights?
ABC was playing the game in prime time.
Oh.
You just to kind of want to avoid the score. Back then, there was no internet. There was no, I don't even think they had cable yet. You could avoid it if you wanted to. And the PA
announcer ruined it.
The damn PA announcer. But still, we won. It was fun to watch. But yeah, that's number 4.
I saw it in college on a black and white screen that's about this big. Number 4 for me, August 4th, 1985, in the Bronx. Yes, in the Bronx, no less, okay? We're not in Queens. Tom Seaver got his 300th win at Yankee Stadium with a complete game win. That's why we went, because we thought he could get it. And he was playing in front of thousands of Mets fans who ventured over to the Bronx. He leaped into the arms of future Hall of Famer Carlton Fisk, who I'll mention also later, who was with the White Sox. And it overshadowed the pregame festivities. One of the three of us wanted to go to see Phil Rizzuto Day. They were retiring as number 10. They brought out a holy cow, a halo over a cow, and unfortunately the cow body-checked, cross-checked Scooter to the ground, honoring his signature call, holy cow. Final score was Seaver and the Cow 4, Yankees and Rizzuto 1. Number 3, Ashley.
All right, number 3 for me. We've talked about my experience. This is a working capacity intern at the 2006 Olympics in Torino, Italy, standing on the finish line for various downhill events. I was there. That was the year, for those of you who don't remember, the big Bodie Miller bust year when he DQ'd all over the place, didn't medal. He was the medal favorite, didn't medal in various events. But I literally, so like my pass, you could wear this monstrous, credential. And I was like, oh, can I go sit in the stands? And they were like, no, those are, purchased tickets only. You can't sit in somebody's seat. So I'm like, oh, okay. And they were like, but you can go, like, you've got a media credential. You can go up if you want, go stand at the finish line if you want. So I literally stood at the finish line of these events, like as the best skiers in the world came down. Really cool. So that was one of my days off when I wasn't working at cross country skiing. But to be, I know it's probably not possible for a lot of people, but if you can ever go to an Olympic Games for any event, it's freaking unbelievable. It's incredible. So yeah, do it. If that's on your bucket list, do it. You got LA coming up in a few years here in the United States. If you can get to LA for any events, do it because it's awesome.
Number 3, June 2001. I spent a week with family out in Denver visiting during the Avs Devils Cup series. And as a lifelong Bruins fan, my handle on Twitter is at Sean_Martin77. That 77 stands for Raymond Bourque. I came back to New York when the Avs won Game 7 and Ray Bourque was given the cup by Joe Sakic. I'm not going to lie to you. I was bawling like a baby. Probably had 77 beers in me at that point, but that's okay. Watching him after he was my favorite player, the first time I ever saw him play his rookie debut in 1979, seeing him finally win a Stanley Cup felt like I had won a Stanley Cup. I was so happy for him for that moment. That's probably, as far as a fan, that's as big a moment as I've ever had in my fandom, which is a long time.
Right with you with Bourque. Number 3 will go to January 27th, 2002 in Pittsburgh. Drew Bledsoe was injured early in the 01 season for the Pats.
No.
With the Jets game 3 games in, and a kid named Brady took over. He guided them to the AFC title game against the Steelers, but then he got injured before halftime. Now we're not thinking, well, this really could go okay because Bledsoe's going to come in, right? And he did. Now remember, he had a 10-year billion-dollar contract that they had to move to Buffalo after the season. But Bledsoe came in, helped lead the Pats to the 24-17 win and the Super Bowl 36, which would be their first title. You can imagine how excited I was. It was a 50-degree day in Pittsburgh, and I kept my jacket zipped up over my Pats jersey, and I'm glad I did that because I'm still alive today to say that. Number 2, Ashley.
Yes, number 2 for me. I talked about how sometimes losses stick with me more than wins. I was not at this game, but I say this knowing how blessed I am to say that this was maybe the worst day of my life. March 18th, 2005, my freshman year at Syracuse, my team lost to Vermont in the first round of the NCAA tournament. Taylor Coppenrath and TJ Sorrentine are 2 names that when people say it, I like shudder. Because listen, it's your first year in college. It's your first year where you really feel like attached to a team. And I have had a lifelong fandom of Syracuse long before I ever went there. But my first year in college and my team, Big East champs, get upset in the first round by freaking Vermont. So for the backstory, I was a lunatic. I was decked out. For some reason, I was home in March. I don't know if we had like a break or I just came home for a weekend or whatever it was. I was at a Sweet 16 party at Jillian's in downtown Albany, wearing a Hakeem Warwick jersey, like Syracuse sweats, orange sneakers, baseball cap, like decked out. At Jillian's, it's on every freaking TV. We lose. Not only am I devastated, it just so happens, like this feels like really bad karma. It just so happens that the Vermont hockey team is playing at the Times Union Center that night, and all their effing fans come rolling into Jillian's after this hockey game. And when I tell you, I literally wanted to like jump off the roof of Jillian's. It was unbearable. Like it was, I was like, guys, I gotta go. I gotta get out of here. There's Vermont people everywhere. Not only are they like rubbing it in, but they're celebrating. And meanwhile, I'm like legitimately devastated. And this is all getting thrown right in my face. One of the worst days of my life.
Ashley, I'm laughing because I was at that hockey game and then I was at Jillian's for that basketball game.
My God, it made me want to shoot myself.
I was there with you.
It was in Worcester, I think, that hoop game, the upset.
We were down in the arcade, and oh God, it killed me. It killed me.
That's funny that we were in the same
establishment at the same time,
bar.
20 years ago.
Number 2 for me, I go back to my first ever Major League Baseball game in '73, but I get the feeling anytime I go to a sporting event, and I actually used it for a cover of my book that I wrote a year and a half ago. That feeling you get when you walk through the tunnel and first see the playing field, whether it's baseball, I get goosebumps thinking about it. My first baseball game, A's and Orioles, Brooks Robinson hit a home run. But what I remember most about it was walking through the tunnel of the Oakland Coliseum, and you see the manicured baseball field, which we'll see again, hopefully in 2023. That I'll never forget that. And that's why I wanted it to be on the cover of the book, because it's a magical moment for me anytime I go to a game. Yeah. I mentioned the Nebraska-Notre Dame game. I walked up the tunnel. My friend Bob, his brother was an alum of Notre Dame and got us tickets to go with him. And my buddy's like, what'd you think? I'm like, are we in Lincoln or are we in South Bend? It's a magical moment for me, and you get to relive it every time you go to a game. Mm-hmm. That's what's so special about that.
Yeah, I love that feeling too. I mean, even now, like walking, I've been to Yankee Stadium 10 times, even walking into the stadium. You're right though. Like the lights, everything about it. It's no matter whether it's football, baseball, basketball. It's a really cool feeling.
It's magic. It's pure magic.
I remember it at Fenway, Green Monster. Oh my God, that looked big.
The monster.
Number 2, we'll go to Boston and we'll go to Fenway because October 1st, 1983, never felt so fortunate. Tickets to Yaz Day. Carl Yastrzemski was honored to cap a 23-year career with the Red Sox, his only team. I had a ticket behind home plate, and we rose as one for a 6-minute standing ovation. Should have been 60. He got his cars, his boat, donations made in his name to the Jimmy Fund. Wonderful. Very private man, still to this day. Doesn't even go to the Hall of Fame each year. He trotted around the park, waving to the fans. His number 8 was retired, and he said, New England fans, I love you. Well, I was born in your rookie year, Yaz. I grew up with you, and Yaz, to this day, we love you too. So now, the top pick. This will be a lot of fun to hear.
1. This is not as upsetting to me. In fact, it's one of the best days of my life. You could probably guess it. April 7th, 2003. The block. Hakeem Warwick blocking Lee late in the game. Syracuse wins its first and only national championship. I was not yet, I say committed. I didn't play real sports to commit there. I had not yet accepted admission to Syracuse at that point. But like I said, I was a lifelong Syracuse fan. The game starts so damn late. My parents let me stay up because I was, old enough. I was a junior in high school at that point. Stayed up, tried to be quiet because my brother and my mom were sleeping. But my dad and I raised holy hell downstairs cheering for Syracuse. I'm one of the coolest moments of my life. I hope they get there again, but there is certainly no guarantee, especially for a school like Syracuse. Listen, they had Carmelo Anthony. They're one and done guy, and they don't get those very often. So that to me, I remember just cheering with my dad and going absolutely crazy, not being able to sleep that night and going to school the next morning, just totally decked out. I still have the newspaper from both Syracuse and Albany. I saved it. I'll keep it forever. It was cool for me. Very cool.
All right. Number 1 for me, Ashley, I missed the Christmas tree.
Oh, yeah, no, sorry.
Oh, yes.
I got a jockey. We got a long jockey.
But you got the jockey in, and that ties in with my number 1.
Oh, good.
We are very lucky to live in the area of the Saratoga Racecourse. To me, it's hallowed ground. Mm-hmm. I've been there hundreds of times in my life. I've done the grandstand. I've stood up by the gate, although I don't really like doing that much. I don't go to parades much, given my vertically challenged self. But also my grandmother, big Notre Dame fan, NASCAR fan, church, horse racing. Those are her passions. She'd never been to Saratoga. So in the summer of 99, I called her. I said, come on out here. Come on out. Make the drive from Buffalo. I got this photo.
Oh, cool.
First time she ever went to Saratoga. My wife and I took her once or twice to get a couple umbrellas a few years later. Yeah. But that's what sports is sometimes. You can share things with family members, your kids, friends, whoever. And then so being able to take her that day was awesome because she loved it. It was everything she planned on or hoped it would be. And that's just Saratoga, and that's the allure. Like I said, we're very lucky that we live so close. That's
another place, not when you walk in the gates necessarily, but when you walk out or you see it from like above, that's another place that's like, it's magic. It's so cool.
Yeah, actually, if you go up top of the press box, up on the platform, you can just see the mountains for miles and miles and miles. It's absolutely awesome.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Well, I'm going to tie right in the grandmother family theme, but just a footnote, Olympics. I can't really define it. I don't want to talk about the night of the bombing that we worked, but it was also being a fan, and that really was a tremendous experience. But number one will have to be October 21st, 1975 in Boston, Game 6 of the World Series, 7-6 win and 12 over the Big Red Machine. Okay. I was seated next to my grandmother in right field. We got the tickets through a family lottery because my uncle was a state representative at the time.
Wow.
And when we drew Game 6 of the series, she said, Eric, we're not going to make it that far. Well, we waited days for the rain to subside. And when it did, oh my God, it was surely worth it. The starting lineup, you two, featured 7 Hall of Famers. And then when Fisk hit the homer after about 12:30 a.m., true story, my grandmother did the jig. She's 76 years old at the time. We hugged strangers, and she said, Eric, you will never, ever see a greater sporting event in your lifetime. And as I tipped the hat that I wore that night at age 15,
that's cool.
Kind of tight. I say to her, Grandma, you surely got that right.
That's cool. I can't believe that's the hat you wore.
Yes. And
that's
it will
unreal.
Be stored immediately.
I mean, the fact that you were in the building for that is unreal.
Absolutely incredible.
Cool.
We're all fortunate to be worked with sports as a fan and with your duties. And we know that there's many more great moments for both of you to come.
Sure. Whiteboards.
Yeah. Mine's not very exciting. So do you want me to go first?
Go for it. You're always exciting, Ashley. Come on.
No. All right. My whiteboard is the Arizona Cardinals because I think when we talked about coaches at the end of the year, some of us thought maybe Kingsbury's on the way out. There's some unsettled energy, some bad juju. The Cards, the way they ended the season was really bad. They got blown out in the wild card by the Rams, who, by the way, won the Super Bowl. But it was ugly. Well, today, the Arizona Cardinals extended both their general manager and head coach Cliff Kingsbury until 2027. So whatever we thought was going down in Arizona is clearly not going down. There is some very public negotiating going on with quarterback Kyler Murray, which he's done some weird stuff, like gone through his agent to say he's interested in staying in Arizona. He's committed. He wants to be there. Why not just say it yourself? You've got social media. You've got these platforms. Come out and say it yourself that you want to be here. You want to stay here. You want to play for the Cardinals. You want to play for Kingsbury, whatever it may be. Either way, I'm a little bit surprised because not only this season, after they started 7-0, ended 4-6, and we talked about the way that the season ended, but 2020, they start the season 5-2, end the season 3-6, and miss the playoffs. Those aren't back-to-back ideal finishes to any season, let alone a coach getting an extension out of it and a general manager getting an extension out of it. But hey, what do I know? I'll be interested to see if Kyler Murray ends up playing for them again next year and if they can avoid a collapse as epic as the last 2 years that have happened.
All right. My apology game is weak, but I'm going to do the best I can. Wasn't that long ago that I suggested the Bruins trade Jake DeBrusk for a bag of pucks because that's what I thought he was worth. And he had recently a 6-game stretch with no goals, no assists. Awful. I would have taken 6 pucks. However, Mr. DeBrusk has one, he's gone to the same line with Reese Bergeron and Brad Marchand. That's going to improve anybody's game, but still he's playing hard. So, Jake, 7 goals in your last 6 games. I'm sorry. However, you start dogging it again, I'm going to climb right back on you. All right? Play hard. That's all I ask for. That's all we want. Your agent reassess the trade request. Fine. You want to go somewhere else? That's okay. But guess what? Lackluster effort isn't going to play in Arizona. It's not going to play in LA. It's not going to play in Tampa. It's not going to play in Boston.
Definitely not going to play in Boston.
Yeah. Play hard, Jake. You're great with the fans. You're great with the kids. The city wants to love you. I want to love you. Play hard. That's all we ask. Just keep playing hard. 7 goals and 2 assists in the last 6 games. Just keep it up.
Paige Beckers.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
It's not pronounced like Bob Euchre. It's Beckers.
She's
in
back.
NIL. Okay. Last season, Paige became the first freshman to earn the Wooden Award. Awesome. She won the Naismith also, AP Player of the Year, USBWA Player of the Year. This season, well, she's been quiet because she had that serious knee injury, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Kept her out 2 months at UConn, but she came back last week and had a little to do with the Huskies' blowout win over St. John's. Now, here's a report that was disturbing. It says that just 20% of the top 100 highest-earning college athletes were women, okay? She's a sophomore, stands out. It's working out well for her. Regarding the NIL, of course, the name, image, and likeness. Mm-hmm. She filed a trademark for her nickname, Paige Buckets. She announced a deal with StockX, which is an online shoe and merchandise company. She became the first college athlete to represent Gatorade. How's that? Of all of them out there, they went after her first. And she announced a partnership with Cash App. There are estimates she'll likely get more than $60,000 for an Instagram post just promoting a brand. Forbes recently said that she's a few deals away from reaching $1 million in endorsements. She's a sophomore. So she's got possible NCAA titles, the Olympics, WNBA, all is on the horizon. And you know what? So are wide-eyed young female student athletes looking up to her. She is the face of NIL for her sport. She isn't the next as a term in the past. She is the next and the now.
Think about this. And this is why the NIL is such a good thing. You're saying she's close to $1 million in endorsements. What if that knee injury was catastrophic? I mean, what if she never played basketball again? And listen, you're not gonna have the endorsements aren't gonna last. But say she suffered it next year. At least she has $1 million and she can then get a college education to go on about her life and achieve great things. Had she not had that, now she's just got a college education, no basketball career, which she banked on making money and making as a career. She doesn't have any of that. So good for the NCAA finally for coming around to this. But this is the reason why stuff like this is good for the sport, because you're allowing athletes to profit. But she's the perfect example because of the injury she suffered. It's almost like, hey, that makes too much sense, because what happens if she never plays again? At least she's got that money.
Very good point from a former college student athlete.
Yeah. All right. That going to do it. We'll be back next week. M&M across the board. Apple, YouTube, Spotify, Twitter at MMMATB1. We hope you tweet at us, give us suggestions. This was an awesome show. I thought the topics were really fun. Loved the memorable moments. Loved them. I loved all your guys' memorable moments.
Okay. No, it was fun.
I thought they were cool. All right. We'll see you next week, guys. Thanks for joining us. Talk to you soon.
Bye now.